Welcome to Chasing the Beats, a show dedicated to weeklybeats.com artists, their songs, and stories from the 2024 season. I'm your host, SQF, and on today's show, our guest is JWH. Welcome. Thanks for being the first guest on this very experimental podcast. So thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for asking.
Yeah, I've had such a great experience with the whole Weekly Beats community. I wanted to kind of do something to be like, there's just so much music that I think a lot of people need to hear. And there's just so much that it's impossible for everyone to hear everything.
Totally. I was actually just last night when I was thinking about, I think we maybe talked a little bit about this in our email thread, but like, yeah, it's weird not being, like it was Friday yesterday and I was like, crap, what am I going to do? Like, and I was like, oh wait, I don't actually have to worry about uploading a song this week.
Yeah.
So it's going to be an adjustment, but I did have the thought like, this will be nice to have some time. Cause part of my like weekly schedule last year has been just like listening to other Weekly Beat songs and just, I think that's part of why I felt, such a deep connection to the community this past year. But I was thinking, well, it'll be nice in the off year. Like there's a ton of stuff that I missed, or like, I might have found someone like halfway through the year that I was like, oh my God, like this person's like so good, but maybe didn't have the time to go back and listen to their stuff from her. Or even, some users have been on for several years. So like if there's someone in particular that I just like kind of fell in love with their music, it's cool to have that archive to be able to go back and explore. But yeah, I think it's great.
Yeah,
the podcast will be a good way to kind of like highlight some things that that not everyone was able to catch, because there's a lot of
there's so much. And I know you did a great job of trying to listen to a ton of stuff, and I think you're up there in one of the most prolific commenters. So you covered a lot of ground on listening and contributing.
Well, hopefully I wasn't obnoxious about it.
I don't think that's possible. I always tried to return the favor. If someone commented on my stuff, I'd go listen to their stuff and comment, and then usually find someone that I wanted to keep up with every week. But yeah, it's nice to have a little break, just to, sort of simmer in everything that happened over the last year.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, kind of explore around, and hopefully this is another avenue for people to explore and maybe get a little bit more in depth on an artist by artist level, instead of having to, read all the comments or, every song description. So
yeah, remind me, was this your first year also?
Yeah.
Okay.
And yours as well, right?
It was, yeah. Emily, my partner, she's been on, I'm trying to remember, I think she started, I want to say in like 2016.
Okay.
She's upstairs. She's probably like, he's got this all wrong. I want to see if I can look really quick, because I think you can search by year. She was definitely on in 2016. Let's see if she had any 2014.
So what made you want to jump on board?
Well, we have a mutual friend whose username is 10, buddy of ours named Maurice, and we're part of another music community. That's how we know him, called the PRF, not to be confused with SQF. But yeah, it kind of started as an online community based on there's an audio or like a web forum connected to the electrical audio studio in Chicago that Steve Albini started years ago. And through that forum, like people, it's a lot like Weekly Beats in that it's just a bunch of music nerds and posting, whether it's gear stuff or recording techniques or just whatever. And obviously, a lot of the people on there were in bands or musicians themselves. So eventually, someone was like, "Hey, we should have a party and like all our bands can play and we can actually meet in real life." So they started doing these. They just called them barbecues in Chicago several years ago. Um, but yeah, anyway, that's just kind of a winded way of saying that's how we knew Maurice. And at one of the events called Thunder Snow, that's up in the Upper Peninsula of
Yeah.
Michigan, um, in every February, which is kind of a wild time to be going to the
Right.
UP. But we got to know him at one of those, and Emily was wanting to. I don't want to speak too much for her, but she was struggling a little bit with just like finishing pieces, and she was also wanting to get better at recording, struggling with some like when is something done, and like
Mhm.
always feeling like um oh, I'm making this thing, but I'm never quite happy with it. And
Yeah.
Maurice was like, you should check out this thing I'm doing called Weekly Beats. It's really nice because there's a weekly deadline. So you kind of just have to be like, that's what I could do this week. I'm going to bless and release and just be okay with what it is. And for whatever reason, I think we exchanged, information, and I think he emailed the info to us, and it really kind of especially stuck in Emily's head, and she was like, I think I'm going to try this. And so I think that first year, I'm pretty sure it was 2016, but I think that first year that she started, um, it had already, the year had already started, but she just kind of jumped in
Yeah.
when she was ready. And so I kind of experienced it a little bit vicariously through her, just seeing her process. I mean, it was really great for her. She got, obviously got a ton of experience recording and mixing and just being okay with letting stuff
Right.
out into the ether, and just, even if it was if there were things that she maybe in the past would have been like, I'm not sharing this with anyone or
Yeah.
whatever. But then when she was done with that year, looking back, there were a lot of them that she was, I don't, she probably wouldn't use the word proud of, but she felt good enough about to like, hey, I'm gonna like actually collect some of these into a release on Bandcamp, and and share with a little bit wider community. But
Yeah.
so I had just kind of in observing her process with Weekly Beats, and then also she would she would be listening to some of the other Weekly Beat artists, and I would kind of, that's kind of how I like got to know, like every time she would be playing like a Tone Matrix song, just this really beautiful emotive piano stuff, and I'd always be like, who is that, like what are you listening
Yeah.
to? And she's like, yeah, it's Tone Matrix. And so like, I would start to get certain names kind of in my head, like, oh yeah, he's the piano guy. And she
Yeah.
called him Wizard because he had the he
He
had
is
the
a
beard,
wizard.
and yeah, he's a total wizard. um so I don't know, I think for this year, I had thought about it in the past, and I didn't it it was something that was important to Emily, so I didn't want to step on that. And also I had just been really busy doing other music stuff out,
Yeah.
that I just didn't really feel like I had it to give. But as with um I've had some like life changes, like my work situation got a lot less stressful, like I got a different position at work, so I felt like I had some more capacity and more time to work on
Yeah.
music. And then also I'm um I'm immunocompromised, and so whereas like before COVID, I was doing playing a lot of shows and going to more shows and stuff like that. So I wasn't doing as much of that. So it was to me it was a good time to like I'm gonna check this out. And I wasn't really sure going in, like, am I gonna keep up with this? I didn't want it to be a stressful thing. Um,
Yeah.
I struggle sometimes. Like deadlines are really good for me because I will actually get something done. But I didn't want it to be this thing where every Sunday I was like, oh crap, I gotta do this thing, you know.
Yeah, like, that was me going into it too. I was like,
Mm,
I don't want this to be like a literal Sunday scaries thing of like, "Oh,
mm,
I have to make music,"
yeah.
you know? I think there was definitely times that I was trending in that direction,
Hmm.
but I think that was part of doing this is figuring out like, "Okay, how do I avoid that and just actually keep this fun?" Because there's really no pressure.
Right, right. It yeah, and I like part of me is a little obsessive, like, like, oh, if I'm gonna do this, I wanna make sure I'm doing it every week so I don't like
Yeah.
feel bad about it. But at the same time in my head, I was like, if we hit something, if I have a rough week at work or, if I get sick or, whatever, we've been wanting to move, like if we end up finding somewhere to move,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna be it's not gonna be the end of the world if I have to miss some
Right.
weeks or whatever. And so I try to at least internally take some of that pressure off. Because I had seen, we've had friends that would like start the year and then like once they missed a year, they'd be like, all right, I'm out, I'm
Yeah,
done.
I
Like
ended the streak, I'm done.
and yeah, I wanted it to be a fun experience and not, yeah, like we were saying, like super
Yeah.
high
Give
pressure
yourself
stuff.
an out, but allow yourself to, like, uh, keep the streak alive, but it's okay to, like, miss 1 or 2 if life gets in the way.
Exactly.
Yeah, so, kinda what are some of the things that you, learned about creating every week?
Um, so something that I had even before 2024 started, I had I think like I said, part of the work change, um, I was like my previous position was just like I was had a lot of stress and was like approaching burnout in a lot of ways. And it was hard in that space to feel creative. So that changed, I want to say in 2022, like fall of 2022 was when that change happened. So like even in 23, I had really kind of been like really inspired. I had kind of like during early COVID times, I had decided to like I've done home recording and stuff like that most of my life, but I decided to kind of up my game a little bit, and I had started using Reaper, which has been a really good fit for me as a DAW, and had gotten. I mean, I don't have a really high tech studio or anything, but I had gotten a couple nicer microphones and a preamp just to be able to do better recordings at home. Because like previously the band I'm in called the Rutabaga, my bandmate, like he was the one who was like recording and mixing all of our stuff. Um, and since we weren't like actively getting together and recording and stuff like that, I thought it was like, well, this would be a good time to really kind of get better and more comfortable with recording, mixing, all of that. So yeah, so the I was already feeling like pretty inspired and having a lot of ideas and feeling like I was able to start to get some recordings. Like I really liked working with a 4 track when I was younger, so
Yeah.
I tried to approach it like Reaper. I kind of tried to think of it as like a 4 track on steroids a little bit. Like obviously there's a lot more options for tracks and things like that, but um just to kind of recapture like the fun and the magic of like how cool it is when you realize when you're able like when I first started using a 4 track just to be able to like layer sounds and mess with the speed and
Yeah.
just kind of all those kind of things. So yeah, so when I started in 2024 with weekly beats, um, I wanted to try and keep it simple. It's funny, like I had that in my. I think I've updated my bio, but like when I started, I was like, I'm gonna try and keep it simple so I don't go overboard every week. And Emily would always slash, she'd be like, "How's that keeping it simple thing going?" I'd be like working with like 3 other people and like have
Yeah,
these
man.
super layered recordings, but I didn't obviously didn't do that every week, but I really I wanted something I've been working on, not just with music, but just in general, as trying to. It's hard to talk about this without sounding like woo or whatever, but I've been trying to like really get to know myself and get comfortable with who I am, and like
Yeah.
take time every day to like um, shut off the screens and like just like find some quiet in myself. And
Yeah.
that I think translated to my creative life really well and kind of helped um, keep that inspiration faucet kind of turned on and really just like following that like I try not to be real strict on like, okay, this week I'm going to do this and this week I'm going to do that, like, and just follow like whatever I was excited about. And um obviously some weeks where I was maybe feeling less inspired or whatever, but really like um I was able to kind of keep that going through the year and not feel too much like I was, like the well was empty or whatever.
Right.
And I hope that doesn't
Right.
sound braggy. That was just my experience
Yeah, I
with
mean,
it.
I think it's a marathon, and so you kind of have
Mhm.
to figure out how to not deplete yourself along the way.
Right.
Because I know me creatively, like I had never done anything like this before where I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go have fun and create on a deadline every week.
Yeah.
So balancing that deadline and having fun thing was, I think, part of the formula for me to figure out about myself.
Had you like done recording and things like that previously?
Yeah, so in high school I was really big into guitar. I took guitar lessons for like 5 years, was in some bands, got a 4 track, experienced the same kind of joy as you of like, oh, I can like layer sounds and
Yeah.
like this is amazing. I think the missing piece now looking back was like I had I think it was a DD5 drum machine that
Mhm.
was just like a pain to program.
Is that the
And
Yamaha with the circles?
I think it's a Roland.
Okay.
But it was like I never like jived with it, and so like the drums were kind of like a missing link
Yeah.
for me
Yeah,
in
yeah.
the recording. But I recorded some stuff. And then in college I was in some bands, kept going with the 4 track. And then, life got busy, career got busy, and I kind of stopped doing music stuff altogether.
Mhm.
And then after the pandemic, I was sort of like, maybe I should like pick up the guitar again, and maybe I should kind of experiment with recording.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I still really love this.
Mhm.
Like, this is amazing. But I kind of, I realized I kind of hated making music on a computer.
Yeah.
Like, I have GarageBand, but sitting at a computer making music felt like sitting at a computer at work in a lot of ways.
Yes.
So that's why I went down this whole path on these, standalone boxes and the Deluge and the M8, and kind of fell in love with the sequencing mixed with recording, but being
Yeah.
able to sequence things and change sound on the fly that you might have to do like 100 takes on a DAW to get the same sort of experience. So it was kind of a fun change up to making music for me. And
Nice.
then I found out about weekly beats and I was like, I'm having trouble finishing songs and just releasing them into the world or working on them for so long that I'm like, yeah, I don't like that anymore.
Right.
Um, so, yeah, that's kind of why I wanted to start it, and it's been super helpful for all of that.
Awesome. Did you know someone, or did you, were you just like, I know, well, so you got, is it mate or M8? I never know what I'm
I
supposed to
think
call.
it's M8.
Okay.
The
That's how I
Australians would
was.
probably say mate, but
Okay. Was it just through getting that, and then, because I
yeah,
know there's
I
obviously a big connection.
I know they're tightly coupled, because I think the guy that owns M8 or Dirty Wave
Mhm.
started the whole weekly beats thing.
Yeah.
So I think just through that community and people talking about it, I was like, yeah, I should try this thing.
Mhm.
But I was skeptical of like, am I gonna keep this up for
Yeah.
52 weeks?
Right.
I was like, I don't know.
It's I mean, it is like, and you never really know, like, I knew some just from Emily's experience that, like, you know, I mean, every once in a while someone, you might have someone that kind of rubs you the wrong way or whatever, but I knew it was like, she wouldn't have stuck with it if it was just a bunch of dudes like being getting on there and
Your
telling you
mix
your
is
stuff
bad,
sounded
bro.
like crap or whatever. But so I knew there was it was a supportive community, but also at the same time, yeah, you never really know. I obviously I want to get better and improve, but I tend to do better like getting one-on-one feedback from someone that I know pretty well. Like, I might send someone a mix and be like, "Hey, how does this feel?" Or, um, "Do my vocals sound too weird on this?" Or stuff like that. But I'm not necessarily like an open it up to like, "Hey, I just want a bunch of people that I don't know super well telling me," because I mean, yeah, everyone has a
Yeah.
different opinion, and I didn't I can shut down with stuff like that, and I didn't
Yeah.
want to get overly like, or I'll like have someone's comment in my head all week. I didn't want it to be like that kind of
Yeah.
situation. So,
It's also hard too when you're just asking for like blanket feedback.
mhm,
It's better when you're like, I want feedback on the mix, or I want feedback on the vocal sound to
how
sort
do I
of
make this kick drum sound better?
container container what people are going to give you, because otherwise it may not be anything that's like really helpful.
Yeah.
Or yeah, you might have a comment that like floats in your head all week, like, oh,
I felt really good about this.
I thought that
Yeah.
was my best work. Um,
Well, and I
so
know like like I I think, just part of my history coming from like a 4-track background and stuff like that. I mean, a lot of stuff. I like a lot of things that are more considered lo-fi, like not necessarily in like what lo-fi is considered now, like study beats or things like that, but like,
right,
like
yeah,
Guided by Voices and Daniel Johnston, and like just some uh yeah, like 4-track recordings and things like that um that are more rough around the edges, or
right,
like even like some Tom Waits stuff. Like I like feeling like I'm in the room with with
right,
with the recording or whatever, and I don't mind hearing like chair creaks or things like that. But I
right.
know for some people that like pulls you out of it. Like, you feel like, like they're listening, they're like, "Oh, I can hear your um I've got we've got this water softener that is just so noisy," and it's like, I've had to find different ways to. I, it doesn't bother me, but also like I'm hearing it all the time, so I think I
Yeah,
just cancel it
exactly.
out. So, but I know like you know some if someone's got headphones on and it's
Yeah,
one of my
I think there's
songs that
people
has like
that
room mics or something, like you're gonna hear that.
yeah, there's people that chase perfection, and then there's people that appreciate the imperfections and the water softeners in the background, chair creaks, like you said.
Hmm.
So you definitely have a mix in your weekly beats tracks of some more heavily produced and like you and a ukulele.
Right.
So I think you span the gamut of like all the different production layers down to like as minimal as possible, as
Hmm.
well as some like, longer, more experimental ones. Was that a conscious choice every week of like, here's the direction I'm going, or how did you choose which path to take?
Um, a, a lot of times, and you know, it would really just I I really try and let the song kind of like dictate where it wants. I know that sounds very like mystical or whatever, but it's just how I work. And you know, like if I start overthinking things, that's when it becomes not as fun, or like you know the things that I kind of look back on and go like, you know, I feel like I just kind of like worked that one to death or whatever. So yeah, I really do try and let the song kind of dictate what it wants to be. And yeah, some of those, like some of the longer, um, you know, kind of more ambient uh, tracks that I did this year, that was that was kind of a new thing for me. And that's like I mean I definitely credit, you know, some of the weekly beat people, like particularly like Napier, who um, he, uh, you know, we were able to collaborate on several things, and some of them were just like he did this series. I think they were all kind of based on Dante, but like I think he called them the Afterlife series. But he had done uh, this series of ambient tracks that were kind of in different modes, like you know this one's in C Dorian or
Oh
C
yeah, yeah, I
minor.
remember these.
Yeah, and for whatever reason, yeah, I don't. I haven't typically listened to a lot of music in that vein, and I don't even know, like you know, like I'm probably using the wrong terms and stuff like that, but you know, some things. I mean, ambient is obviously a pretty wide range, you
Yeah.
know. And it, you know, there are probably purists that would, you know, balk it, whatever. But those that series that he did, um, I mean, even in the midst of while I think it was maybe after the second one that he put up, it just really got in my head. And like sometimes there are tracks like that where you know obviously I try to listen to a lot of everyone's things during the week, but sometimes I would get stuck on a certain song and just
Yeah.
kind of be listening on a loop over and over again. And sometimes I would also like grab my guitar and like just play along with it just for you know just for fun. Um, and we had like Napier and I had interacted through comments and stuff like that, but you know he wasn't someone I knew outside of that. Um, but I think I'm trying to remember. I think I just at some point I had saw he said like, "Hey, if anyone wants to use this for sample
Mhm.
fodder or whatever, you know, just let me know." And he had it licensed, you know, like I don't know what license he used, but it was like fair use or whatever. So
Yeah.
yeah, I had reached out to him and I had uh, I can't even remember what the first one was, but it was one of that series, and I had just had some ideas playing along with that and over it that felt like it was working really well, and he kind of gave me his blessing and was like, yeah, that sounds great. And that kind of sent me in a whole new tangent. I don't know that I had really, I mean, I had done longer songs and things like that before, but nothing quite in that vein. And that was, yeah, honestly, for me, that was an incredible experience. Like I did have some moments that where I felt like what his track, like the things he had done in his track, they would like sync up in ways with what I was doing that just felt like it felt like um just kind of the feeling of when you're playing with another musician and you get that kind of like
Yeah.
telepathic, almost like, you both change at the same time or things like that. Like it was that, but we weren't like both sitting in the same room together playing. It was just, through file sharing or whatever. So yeah, this is kind of a long-winded way of saying, like with those, I tried not to overthink it. I just tried to kind of see what came out, and some of those ended up being, yeah, like they just meant a lot to me, and it felt like it kind of um, took the music in a way that I wasn't necessarily expecting it to go. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Was that the beginning of your, I would call extensive collaboration catalog this year?
I'm looking back. I mean, uh, 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 I think I had maybe done a couple before that um, with people I knew outside of Weekly Beats. Like obviously Emily and I, um, collaborate from time to time
Right.
since we're we're both here. And yeah, I think I had maybe done a couple, but I think the first Weekly Beat person that I didn't already
Cursory?
know, yeah, I think it was that track with Cursory. Like I had worked with Emily and Tone Matrix on one of her songs in 2022. Um, but yeah, so I think that one with Cursory, called Dreaming Again, which was week 17. I think that was the first, like, I'm gonna reach out to this person that I don't really know
Yeah.
and see. And that, yeah, that was, I was really stoked with how that turned out.
Yeah. That's one thing that I wish I would have done this year is collaboration, but I think I was a little too stressed out about actually finishing stuff every week that I was like, I gotta just stay in my box here.
Yeah,
And
it
like,
does add a whole other, there's a
yeah,
social
yeah.
element, and yeah, with the time crunch, it can be a lot to try and like
Yeah. I was like,
navigate all
oh,
that.
that's too much right now. Let me just do my own thing. Um, well, to kind of get into the music, I had you pick three of your favorites, and then I did my best to pick three of my favorites, but it was very hard, because I love a ton of your stuff. So I think what we'll do is play your picks and then just do a little comment after each one.
Okay.
All right, so the first one is week 32 for you to hold a
Mhm.
collab with Napier. Here we go.
Sometimes I fall asleep, sometimes I get lost and overloaded. Why are we here again? But in through the noise, the hum of your heart beats. Running through the branches, sighing, taking off your boots. I brush your hair back and you smile. We're turning over and our style is breathing at a pace. Feels right. I will meet you in the forest. I will be brave this time. I'll bring stones for you to hold. I will take all of your worries, all of the shards of glass, and release them to the sky.
So I love the like super reverby vocals. Like you
Mm-hmm.
said, like you're in the room with you. And then I'm guessing Napier added in like the cello and strings and
Yeah, some alto flute. Um,
yeah.
yeah, so this one was I picked this one because it was kind of, for one, it like the song was really meaningful to me, but also like it was kind of a turning point in the year for me. I learned I learned so much working with Napier on this track. So that one, it kind of stood out. So it was a little past the halfway mark, and
Mhm.
I had done a few uh, of the tracks where like he had already released, um,
Yeah, and you just
as
added
like
on
a
top.
standalone ambient piece, and then um, he had allowed me to like layer on to that. So I had done a few of those, and just from that and interacting, we had kind of gotten to know each other a bit, and I had the I had written this song like years ago, and there was a recording of it that I was like kind of like I was happy with it, but there were some like negative connotations around that experience, and I just, for whatever reason, had never like released it publicly. Like only a few people had heard it.
Mhm.
So it was kind of in the back of my head that I wanted to revisit that song and like do like a new version of it. And just from hearing uh, some of the I think he would call neoclassical stuff that Napier had done. Again, I'm not real good with like genres and
I'm
stuff like
terrible, so
that.
I'm not gonna correct you on anything.
Okay. But just from hearing, I knew he had a really like sensitive ear, and um, just like was really good at yeah, putting stuff like that together. And I had thought like, oh, this would be a cool song to have some orchestration on. And so I had, yeah, I reached out to him and asked if that was something he'd want to work on, and he was into it. I think we both had time. We might have. Again, this was. I don't know if people would consider this cheating since it wasn't something I specifically wrote that week or whatever. But from
Right, right.
from my understanding, since it was finished that week, it was mixed that week. I was like, I'm
Yeah.
not gonna, I'm not gonna
I
worry
won't call
about
the
it.
cops
But
on you.
yeah, no one's gonna show up waving their finger at me. But yeah, it was. So I had actually recorded my parts. I was house sitting for my parents earlier in the year, and their garage, for whatever reason, just has this great reverb, and it's noisy because, yeah, I mean, like, they're pretty close to the street, so when cars, I mean, you can actually, I think, hear a car drive by and stuff like that on the recording. But it just um I was I think I was like bringing stuff in from the car and just like kind of like singing in the garage, and I was like, man, it sounds really good out here. So I had like brought some mics out and had just tracked my acoustic guitar and my main vocal live together, like in the garage, and I think I recorded a double of my vocal also. But so I had those already. So um in some ways it worked out well, because this was, yeah, to kind of do all this in 1 week would have been, I think, difficult. But so I was able to send him those those tracks and say, hey, what do you think about this? And he had time to kind of work out some parts. And then so the actual week that it was put up, we scheduled um, we scheduled like a recording, like a Discord shared thing, and I was able to. He kind of walked me through. I wanted to see how he would approach mixing a song, because I kind of knew like how I would do it.
Yeah.
Um, but with the orchestral elements and stuff like that, I was just like, do you want to mix this? And I'll kind of like offer feedback, and just, I was wanting to improve my mixing and also like mastering processes a bit. So seeing seeing him just kind of like, he had everything set up, but kind of like, this is where I would start with the mix once everything's in and whatever. Having him kind of walk me through all of that was just, yeah, like I said, I learned so much. And it really, I mean, there's like things that he showed me that week that I still use, pretty much every
Oh,
mix that I
really?
do now. So
Like
that,
what?
um, so like one thing, like he starts with kind of setting up the sections of the song. So like maybe even like color coding, like here's verse one,
Mm,
and then grouping um anything, like if you're going to have in a mixing folder. So like I had, I think, two or three, no, I had two. I had a main vocal, a double, and then I think I had two two or three harmony tracks of vocals that I had recorded. So setting those all up in a vocal folder,
mm,
um, and kind of grouping things like that, like, and here's the guitar folder, and then here's the strings, and things like that. There was a trick with the harmony. So a lot of times with vocals, I will double my parts, just because, I don't know. That's just, I don't know if it's like
I
a
mean, it sounds good.
yeah. I mean, it's something that the Beatles did a lot, and that was the Beatles were a very formative band for me. So, I think, and I think it's also just hearing a solo vocal can be, it's like looking at
Mhm.
pictures of yourself. It's a little like, oh my God, like,
Yeah.
this is very vulnerable. um, but yeah, there was a thing he did with the harmonies. So I had two two tracks singing the same harmony part, and we panned those out from each other. Like one was panned left a bit and one was panned right a bit, and then he used a stereo widener on each of
Mm.
those. So even though they were panned, they were also it was also like they were kind of like overlapping in the middle a bit.
Yeah.
And I yeah, like I was like, whoa, that sounds super. I had never
I'm
done
gonna use
that
that again.
before. So that, yeah, that was something I did. Like I
Cool.
was taking notes the whole time. Just like, okay. So yeah, that's just a quick example of one of the things. But
Cool.
yeah. So it was,
Awesome.
yeah, I was really, really happy with how that one turned out. And I felt like it was cool to like kind of close the loop with that song, because like I said, I had wrote it years ago, and just yeah, just never quite felt like it was right. Uh
Yeah,
so
it as Neon Liminal quoted in the comments, haunting and melancholy, which I think sums it up quite well.
yeah. Thank you,
Well, cool.
Neon.
We'll move on to the next one. This one is week 39, the 23 Club.
Bar crust, open door. Lost my shoes on the sticky floor. Promise I'm not drowning. I drank enough to float. Hiding in basements, holding in smoke. Oh. Let me have it, let me go. Let me forget, let me grow. There are levels you never know. There are demons making angels in the snow. Oh. Tastes bad, it feels bad. It sounds like the end. We wanted, we needed a new kind of friend. Oh, a new kind of
that one's definitely in your minimalist era,
Yes.
and I love the bar imagery.
Yeah.
I've
Yeah,
been
there
to
was
this bar, I think.
yeah, totally. It was yeah, there was so like in uh there was a bar called Club 23, which is
Oh,
kind of
okay.
where I got the 23 Club. But also like just that being 23 years old and just like that kind of early 20s
Yeah.
experience, being a bit of a mess, uh, drinking too much too often. Um, it kind of, I don't, I'm trying to remember what actually brought that up because that was one that, like, yeah, Sunday, that song did not exist. And then, um, I think it was like by Monday night, like I had it. I don't know if I had it recorded, but I at least had. It started with just that little. I was playing a baritone ukulele that my friend. I'm in another band called
Another band.
Forest Like. That's a little more on the folky side of things. But Jared from that band had given me this baritone ukulele. It's like an old silver tone. I'm not sure how old it is, but that thing is just magic. Like, I don't know. Like every time I pick it up, I come up with with an idea or just some little thing like that that I like. But yeah, I think I knew it was. I think we had a lot going on that coming weekend, so I knew I didn't want to like push it to like Sunday where I'm like trying to mix some big thing with a bunch of parts, and so I knew I wanted to try and do something um, minimal uh, and live if I could, to so where it was just like set up some mics, record, and then that's it. No overdubs,
Yeah.
nothing. Obviously with there was some mixing involved because I think I used three microphones, so there was some of that and just the finalizing. But I wanted to keep it very minimal, very straightforward, and that opening line on the ukulele just kind of came out. I think I was probably playing just during the day that Monday, and um, something made me think about that whole time and that experience, that bar. It really was like there's a line in there. Lost my shoes on the sticky floor. This bar had carpet in it, which is just such a bad idea.
That's a bad idea for a
So
bar.
it was so gross. Yeah, and I don't think I ever went in there with flip flops, but I know I've seen people talk about like so like losing their flip flop because
Yeah,
it
it's
got
a
stuck to the
closed toe shoe area.
ugh. But yeah, I think I was feeling just kind of nostalgic and
Yeah.
thinking about that time, and like there were some really good parts of it, and I was also I was a bit of a mess and kind of trying to figure out a lot of stuff, trying to figure out who I was, and I think it just kind of tapped into that,
Yeah,
and I
it's
did, yeah, I I do try and challenge myself sometimes with, especially with these more stripped down recordings, and just like being being vulnerable and being okay with it,
yeah.
you know.
Like you said, like non-doubled vocals are
Hmm.
scary.
Yes.
And you mentioned that Neon Liminal gave you some mixed feedbacks on this one.
Yeah.
What did he kind of help out with?
So he was someone that, again, I didn't know him before this year, and he was someone, I think, just from his music and comments that um, felt like, like we had connected, um, as the year went on, and so we were like in touch outside of Weekly Beats, and um, yeah, he's someone who I just like. He has great ears and really, um, I mean, his mixes just always sound really incredible, and um, I don't remember why specifically, but I think we were just maybe talking about what we were working on that week, and
Yeah.
I had said, "Hey, can I send you this thing? It's really like, it's really stripped down." Um, and I using again, this was one I'm recording in my basement most of the time, and with when I'm using like a SM7, uh, that doesn't pick up a lot of noise, but I think I had a room mic set up when I recorded this one, and then also a mic on the. Oh yeah, you can actually see it in the video I posted. Um, I had a mic for the ukulele too, so there was some more room sound, and it was, it's a very stripped down kind of quiet
Yeah.
song with a lot of spaces and stuff, and so I think I was a little just like, hey, can you check this to make sure it's not like too noisy, and
Right.
and he gave me some really good notes on and just for one, just encouraging, like, no, that's part of what's cool about this recording
Exactly,
is
yeah.
is it
Some reassurance.
yes. And then also just like, I'm trying to remember, but I think just like some EQ,
Yeah.
some EQ notes. Uh,
Cool.
yeah.
Well, we'll keep it moving and
Okay.
move on to the next one, which is the final song of the year, Every Continuation. first I have to say the kick and the bass in this track are amazing.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, like it stands out as like part of the foundation. Like the kick just sounds so good and the bass is so snappy.
Yeah.
That with the drums, it's like amazing.
Awesome. Thank you.
Um and then second, I really love the video that is
Mm.
sort of like cleaning up, packing up, sort of closing down the studio after a long, grueling 52 weeks.
Yeah.
um, so I think a perfect end cap to the year. The vocals are amazing, probably from some tricks you picked up along the way.
Mm.
And lots of collabs on this.
Yeah. Yeah, that was part of why I picked this one, because it really did. Yeah, I think it really kind of brought a lot of things together, but it was cool that so Emily added some vocals. Um, Neon Liminal, we were just talking about, added some drums and some feedback on the mix, and then 10 Maurice, who was the person who taught us or told us about he taught us his ways. He told us about weekly beats. He had sent a drone that's kind of going through on pedal steel.
Cool.
Tone Matrix added piano. He worked a ton on the song during the week. There was a lot of back and forth with Tone, and his parts really elevated the song, I think. And then our buddy Gary, who's not on Weekly Beats, added some sax that I mean, he's incredible. He's just such an
Yeah.
empathetic and tasteful player. So it was a lot. And so this was coming after, I mean, it was the week of Christmas working on this, so I did feel bad, and I got strep throat somehow the week, like the weekend before, which is just I'm just like, I don't go anywhere. Like, what the heck? So I was coming out of that, and yeah, obviously with the holiday, like I felt, I was like, okay, I don't really want to be bugging people and throwing a lot at others when they're trying to, like,
Right.
do family stuff or whatever. But I was like, well, I'm just going to put this out there. I had a couple extra days off of work, so I knew I would have some extra time to work on the song. And I kind of wanted to not go out with a bang, but I wanted to kind of, uh, yeah, just kind of pull some of the things that I had
Yeah.
learned together, for this song. And it
Yeah, it sounds
was,
great.
thank you,
And
thank you.
the saxophone part gives me some Andy Schaaf vibes.
Oh, hell yeah, I love
Yeah,
Andy
like
Schaaf.
yeah. And then another shout out to Tone Matrix because he continued every
Mm,
continuation with his
mhm.
own piano noodles and other additions to it, which also sounds great. And he's definitely going
Yeah.
to be on the show at some point.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, that was really lovely that he did that, and I think he was, so he was working so much on my song that I kind of felt bad. I remember, like, there it was probably, like, Friday, he was like, "I don't know what I'm gonna do."
Yeah.
And he's had
Like
several weeks
here.
where he's always like, "Yeah, I'll just, noodle out
Oh, it's
something,"
so many times.
and
Yeah.
it's always just this incredibly
I
beautiful.
know. So nonchalant about it.
Yeah. But I think with here this song was in his head all week, so it he was like, "Would it be," I was like, "Please, please, like, if you're feeling it, like, feel free to, like," yeah, kind of pivot off of that. And yeah, his piece was really, really beautiful.
Yeah. Like I said, great just end cap for the year. And it does feel like it used all the tools from your toolbox throughout the year, mixing, mastering, collaboration, the whole nine.
Thank you. Thank you, I appreciate it. It's funny, I like the main thing that sparked the idea was the guitar line, or the guitar lines, I should say. Like I was, uh, there's a podcast called Life of the Record that I like quite a bit,
Okay.
and they'll like focus in on, like a certain record and have like interviews and stuff. It's really great. There's been some episodes that are just yeah, really really great. But I was listening to, they did one with American football, talking about their first EP1, and one of the songs on there. This is going to get a little nerdy and mathy, but
Do
uh,
it.
they were talking about one of the guitar players is playing in 7/4 and the other is playing in 4/4. So like because of that, there were, after so many measures, the one would fall at the same point, but
Mhm.
they would kind of be like out of sync, but it still worked together. And I was like, I kind of want to try that. I think Radiohead's Let Down does a similar thing, although I think that's maybe 5/4 and 4/4. But so I don't do a lot of like odd time signature stuff. Like
Yeah.
I get really lost sometimes with things like that. But the guitar line that opens it is in 7, and um, I came up with that, and kind of like it felt like I could actually play it without like sitting and going 1, 2, 3, like counting it out. And I was like, okay, so what if I did do that and just it kept going, but I had everything else come in playing in 4, and yeah, it was. I didn't want it to just feel like a big messy swirl of like stuff, and hope. Yeah,
It doesn't.
I'm
It
happy with.
doesn't.
Thank you. I'm happy with how it turned out.
I
Um,
actually didn't even recognize that it was some odd timing going on there. Like,
yeah, I
I'll have to go back and
that
listen to it.
Let Down was like that for me. Like I remember years ago trying to figure out how to play that on guitar, and I was like, why is this so weird? I
This is
cannot
weird.
figure out what Johnny is doing on the guitar. It's because he's playing in 5, so like it it works with what the rest of the song is doing, but it always just felt like just random kind of little plinkly stuff. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think technically that's what, what I was doing.
Well, cool. Now we'll move on to my picks.
Okay.
Like I said, I had a really hard time choosing. Um, I think I'm going to narrow down my choices on the fly here.
Okay.
So my first one is going to be Emotional Alchemy.
Okay.
All
Nice.
right, I'll play it and then we'll chat.
Where do we go from here? Let's walk through together. Door is already open. Let's walk through together.
So, dude, I love the like fuzzed out guitar accents. Like they just, I don't know, they just set the song off for me.
Yeah, it was super fun recording that, and I think I actually mentioned that, and then in the notes I said Emily was thrilled to listen to me record
Yeah.
feedback for an hour yesterday
Yeah.
because there's just no way to get those sounds without having the amp kind of loud. So I was
Oh
kind of
yeah.
freaking out down in the basement, just like I had like I have this little PV Rage guitar amp that for whatever that was like my first amp that I got back in the like late 90s or whatever.
Yeah.
The distortion on it I've just always loved it, and I was like, what if I plug into that and then send the output from that amp into my bigger I've got a Music Man like combo that's bigger. So I had multiple I mean
That's
it
amazing.
was so fun, but it was very, she's upstairs trying to like live her life, and I'm down here just
Yeah.
like, okay, one more track of feedback. I
Just
think I
one
almost
more
got it. And
uh
then our buddy Whitney, who's she's just an incredible drummer. She was in an instrumental band called Chung Antique, which embarrassingly I didn't realize was a play on tongue in cheek
oh
till
wow.
much later. But she's currently in a band called Beatrix, and just she's just a phenomenal drummer. And she had
Yeah, the
sent
drums are
me,
killer.
yeah, I had an idea for the beat. Like I had that kind of main riff on a voice memo, and for whatever reason I was hearing her play drums, and so I sent her a voice memo of me like trying to like approximate
Yeah.
what I was hoping the beat would
Beatboxing.
be, and she sent back those drums, which was just, I think she just recorded those like on her phone or something. So
Oh
that was kind of a
wow.
cool challenge to like, how do I mix like this drum track. I mean, I think it was a stereo drum track. Like, I mean, obviously phones are pretty good at capturing stuff
Yeah.
nowadays, but just I wanted to make it feel like we were in the room together playing.
It
But yeah,
definitely sounds like it. And I mean the song itself is just gives me all the feels.
awesome.
Very touching song. And man, yeah, the fuzzed out guitar feedback, like it's just like the perfect swirl of a great song.
Yeah. Well, definitely I've got a lot of love for like early Flaming Lips and Dinosaur Jr. and stuff like
Yeah.
that. I think that probably comes through. But thank you.
All right, my next pick is Sammy. I'll kick this off
Nice.
and we'll chat.
You know they might try to injure Sammy. He said you're mad that they kill me. They all applaud while he's making money. It all plays out on the TV screen. And oh my, no one survived. The heads were set in motion. And oh right, we smoked through the night, crying through songs of devotion. he's building the end times. They tore his shed down and stole his bike chain. It all plays out on the big screen. And oh my, no one survived. The heads were set in motion. And oh right, we smoke through the night, crying through songs of devotion.
First mystery is, who is Sammy?
Okay, so I think I can talk about this without worrying about any HIPAA violations, because Sammy is sadly no longer with us. But so I've worked for like 23 years now. That I work with people with disabilities. That's kind of like my day job. And the change that I talked about earlier, I went from working in like the programmatic side of things into a remote billing position, which is what I'm doing now. But so Sammy was one of the guys that I worked with and years ago, and just an incredible dude. He played guitar, which was really cool for me because obviously that was something we were able to bond over. And he was really, like, he had grown up, his family, I think, was from West Virginia. So he grew up he was older than I am, or than I was. And so he grew up listening to a lot of like real old school country stuff. Hank Williams and just, kind of stuff in that vein, a lot of the early, like, more outlaw stuff. And he just had such an incredible voice. Really kind of, he could do that kind of Hank, a little bit of that nasally drawl. But yeah, so I would work at his apartment. He lived with a couple other guys, and if there was downtime or whatever, he would bust out his guitar and we would play stuff together. And sometimes we could have very kind of like normal, rational conversations about things, but he would also go off on these tangents at times, and he had these kind of like wild theories. Like I always, he actually wrote songs too that were, there was one in particular that was just so good. And I at one point I remember bringing up like, hey, we should record this sometime. And that kind of like really flipped him out. Like he had this story where like that he would kind of get, it was like he recorded a song, he became a millionaire, and then was assassinated. That was like the story. But so when I brought that up, it totally triggered that. And it was like an hour of just going around. Like he got real upset and was like,
I won't ask Sammy to record anything ever again.
And he would say that sometimes. He looked at me really seriously, and one of the lines is he said, "You're mad that they killed me," and he looked me dead in the eye and was like, "You're mad they killed me, aren't you?" And I was like, "What do you mean, Sammy? I'm talking to you right now. Like, you're not dead." And it was a whole anyway. So
Yeah,
that
yeah.
I
A memorable occasion that fueled a very happy, fun sounding song.
yeah, that was obviously all in the back, in the back of my head
Yeah.
still. And I had, sorry if am I rambling too much? Like,
No, you're doing
okay,
great, man.
okay, okay. I had gone to a wedding that weekend before I wrote this one, and I had brought that baritone ukulele with me in the car because it's easy to travel with, and I thought I might have some downtime in between, like my niece got married, and then there was a reception later, so like it was nice out, so I was just like in between the wedding and the reception, I was just like hanging out by my car with the baritone ukulele, and I came up with that little
Yeah.
line, and I looked over and there was a billboard just like down the street, but I could see it, that um, so it just said, "Injured, call Sammy."
That's amazing.
And I was like, "Oh my god!" So
Like, boom.
so that made me think of Sammy. And I wrote. It was seriously, I was out there for like a half hour. I had all the lyrics, the melody. I had the whole thing
Oh, wow.
recorded on a voice memo on my phone. And so yeah, I came home and recorded it that week. But
Oh, that's amazing.
yeah. Yeah,
That is so
hopefully it
cool.
was a fitting tribute to Sammy. He was a really rad guy, and yeah, I think it captured some of like the fun and the playfulness, but also just like what's kind of going on. Like this person thinks the world's ending. Like what's I wanted to
Yeah,
tap
yeah.
into a little bit of that.
Rest in peace, Sammy.
Yes.
And I love the story about seeing the injury billboard. Call Sammy. Triggers this whole previous experience and
Yeah.
fueled this song, which is a great little song. All right, well, I think I've taken up enough of your time. I have
Okay.
one more song,
All right.
but I think what we'll do is chat about it, and then I'll play it out,
Okay.
and that'll be the end of the episode. But first, I wanted to say thank you for being my first guest on this, and I really appreciate your time. And it's been great getting to know you and your just experience in weekly beats and music and everything. So thank you.
Thank you so much. It was an honor, and yeah, it was good to obviously got to know you during the year just through your music and commenting back and forth too. So, but it was nice to get to know you better, and I
Yeah,
appreciate it.
likewise. And one thing related to this next song that I didn't really get to talk to you about this time
Mm-hmm.
is the whole video production aspect,
Mm.
which is another creative layer on top of just outputting a song, is like making a video, which props to you for adding that. You're doing collabs, you're doing all this stuff, and then doing video production on top of it.
Well, that I definitely have to credit Orange Drink for the inspiration on that,
He is
because
an inspiration.
yeah, he's an incredible musician, and does just really great video stuff. And I think it was 2022 where he was like, "I'm gonna do a video every week," and this was before I was on Weekly Beats, but it was really like Emily and I would like Sunday night we would often like, "Oh, let's watch the Orange Drink
Yeah.
video." So it was really that was a really awesome experience, and it's something I'm not great at, like the visual aspects, and I was wanting to get better at that, and also just doing like some having to make a thumbnail every week. I wanted to get better at I use GIMP for
Yeah.
some of the
Me
visual
too.
stuff, and so yeah, there were definitely weeks where it was like okay, I'm just gonna put a still image up just so
Mhm.
I wanted the songs to be I wanted to be able to load them to my YouTube channel as well. Just I find that's maybe a little easier sharing with people that aren't on Weekly
Yes,
Beats.
yes.
If I wanted to send or post on social media or whatever. So that was kind of a good challenge for me to like, okay, well, if I do actually try and do this every week, it will make me get better and at least quicker
Exactly.
at,
Yeah, and
at
I
doing
really
it.
loved, Orange Drink's final video of the year, kinda looking back at all the other
Mhm.
videos,
Yeah.
like, a visual representation of the other 51 videos I've watched of his throughout the
Mhm.
year, so it's kinda like a cool scrapbook kind of thing.
Yeah.
Um,
He's so good.
so this next song is Jimmy Nardello Stole My Heart, which I think is one of my favorite video productions from you. And for those unfamiliar, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but Jimmy Nardello is a breed of hot pepper.
Yes. And
Uh,
also became a nickname for this asshole chipmunk that was
okay, all right.
eating all of our produce in the garden this year.
So he was the one spitting peppers on the sidewalk.
Yes. He would just take one bite. It's like, just at least finish it. Like, there'd
He's
be
like, "Oh, it's
like,
too spicy."
yeah, like, here's 5 nice tomatoes that I took one bite out of each of them. Like, "Oh, Jimmy." Um, but the few Jimmy Nardello peppers that we got from the garden this year were excellent.
Awesome.
Not actually super spicy, but they just
Okay.
had a really nice, flavor to
Squirrel approved.
chipmunk.
But or chipmunk approved.
Yes.
Um, but, in the video, you have got, like, peppers in your eyes, and it's just great. It's just great.
Thank you. That was a very fun one to make.
So, I think that's a perfect one to end the episode, and the other ones that I was really on the fence on were Blur the song, A Bowl Full of Food, which is really fun and catchy as hell, and Previa with no S, previous without the S,
Yeah.
which is kind of like a little bit more of a longer, more experimental one.
Mhm.
But man, what a pleasure to learn a little bit more behind the secret sauce. We'll play it out with some Jimmy Nardello.
Thank you so much.